So we're talking about our podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm watching a really depressing anime right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Kotaro Lives Alone.
Okay. Sounds very depressing.
It's about a 4-year-old boy.
Okay. That's a way bad. That's who invented this? Who created this?
Right. He lives alone
Okay.
because, spoiler alert,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just skip to the intro if you want to avoid the spoiler.
Oh, well. Yeah. Yeah.
His dad's like really abusive
Okay.
and his mom's dead.
Okay.
So he lives alone
Mm-hmm.
because of that.
Do you feel like some of these anime creators
Have problems?
are animating their lives?
It's very possible.
Like,
It's really fucking depressing. Like, I was watching it last night
yeah.
and I was just like, if I was on my period, I'd be crying.
Yeah.
Like, this is awful.
I don't know, man. Some of these shows, because shows are sometimes based off of real people.
Right.
Like the First Prince of Bel-Air
Right.
is based off of a guy that had lived through the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was his life story.
Right.
So maybe this 4-year-old.
I really hope that a 4-year-old didn't live alone.
I don't know. I mean, possibilities.
I mean, in Japan, I just started watching this reality show called Old Enough, and it's on Netflix, and it's about Japanese children running their first errand by themselves.
Yeah.
And the first episode features a boy who is 2 years and 9 months old, and he runs his first errand to the grocery store. And all by himself, and it's a kilometer away.
Mm-hmm.
So he walks, this barely 3-year-old.
Sounds like Mexico.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
They do that there?
If you were to go down to the border, now I don't know how it is now, obviously, but last time I went, you got kids like selling gum or kids performing for money.
Oh my
But
God.
kids, you know,
Like little kids, like
yeah.
Frankie age?
Yeah, Frankie's age or a little bit older. Like you got your sister's age as well. Like they're performing, they're selling candy, they're selling books or
Now,
toys
see,
or whatever.
I think Ava, she's about to be 14.
Yeah.
Sending a child who is a teenager
Mm-hmm.
to run an errand
Correct.
is much different than sending a toddler,
Oh, 100%.
to run an errand.
100%.
right? Like, I could send Ava
Yeah.
down to Zesty Burger to get me an ice cream cone.
Yeah. I
But
wouldn't
Frankie-
trust.
Frankie wouldn't be able, first of all, she'd get snatched.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust Frankie with like sense of direction because she's still a kid.
Right,
Like a little kid.
right, exactly. Well, then she'd get in there and she'd be like confused. Like,
Like-
she wouldn't know like what she was there for.
Right. I want a pretty patty.
Right. So anyway, guess what day it is?
It's Media Monday.
That was a really long cold intro.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Megan,
And I'm Ro.
and we're going to be talking about our podcasts today
Mhm.
because our podcasts are media
Yeah.
that you can consume.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first because my podcast released first? But you did your podcast first, but
Right.
it's the second
It's the
iteration.
come up. Yeah. It's
Right.
the reincarnation of word of mouth.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'll reincarnate myself. Okay, cool. That was a really cold intro.
Yeah.
So yeah, my podcast, Word of Mouth 2. Jose calls it season 2. I call it version 2.
Okay.
Well, I don't
Who's
know.
Jose?
Jose is my co-host. He is and was a loyal listener to Word of Mouth and is also a loyal listener to Meg And Ro in the Morning
Mm-hmm.
and a viewer. I believe he watches it too.
Mm-hmm.
So he is my co-host. I am partnered with him. He's partnered with me. We record at his place, like his little office area. And then he just seems like a good fit. His energy. His energy
Yeah.
is like
Well,
similar.
he's a Sagittarius, so
so
he's
he's-
like me.
Yeah, so similar to what we vibe off to right now.
Right.
And then so yeah, he's always listened to the podcast. He loved the vibe. He's like, yo, let's bring it back.
How did you and Jose meet? Do you
Actually,
remember?
yeah, we actually talked about this on Word of Mouth.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So his cousin had a 15, and this was a type of era where dubstep was like a hit.
Right.
You know, like Skrillex was a thing, Deadmau5 was a thing. Marquise, the dancer, was like popping off.
Right.
And I learned how to dubstep. And so at his cousin's party, they put a dubstep song on because it was the thing.
Right.
It wasn't like you can't dance to it, but it was a thing to listen to.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then on the podcast, he's like, yeah, so here comes this dude with a mohawk, because I had a mohawk. Dude with the mohawk comes up, starts dubstepping. There's a crowd around me. And I was like, okay, cool. That's where we first, like, I guess, saw each other. But we didn't know who we were.
Well, didn't you both go to the same high school?
We went to the same high school. He graduated, I believe, 2 years before I did.
Okay.
But he was on the swim team, and some of my friends were on the swim team.
Okay.
So I would, like, see him with my friends or whatever. But I would just see him. I was like, okay, whatever.
You wouldn't interact.
Yeah, I wouldn't interact with the guy. And then a friend of mine is friends with him. And so, like, just like, hey, you know, that's how I knew that Jose listened to the podcast. Because my best friend told me that Jose listened to it.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's what's up. And then just here and there. And then he came on here to Payne Points.
Right, the Payne Points podcast.
Yo, I know you. I don't know where I know you, but I know you. And then from there, it just clicked. Like,
right.
Okay, yeah, we're cool. We vibe and that kind of stuff. So we've seen each other for a long time. We've never known each other for a long time. But now we just like hit it off. We're vibing. We're podcasting. And he loves it. I love it. I don't know. Something about podcasting in general brings the person joy.
Right.
I guess in our sense, it brings us joy.
Well, I think that one of the things that humans love to do the most is talk about themselves and talk about their experiences.
Yeah.
And so when you have an outlet to do that, even if no one's listening,
correct,
or even if you know like 5 people are listening, you don't know who those 5 people are.
No.
That could be your grandma.
Yeah.
That could be your best friend.
Just yesterday, my aunt, my cousin's mom, my aunt, whatever.
Yeah.
What? She texted me. She's like, hey, I just stumbled upon your podcast. Oh, and by the way, my aunt's my neighbor too, but we hardly ever like go each other's houses.
Oh.
But she's like, hey, I just stumbled upon your podcast, the second version of it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. She's like, I love it. I love the way I vibe. The energy is great. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I appreciate that. I get that more. I get more joy out of that than likes or comments.
Right.
If they like physically will text me or call me or tell me in person, like, yo, I like it. I'm like, oh, bet. If for say like word of mouth, by the way, word of mouth is WRDOFMTH 2. Word of mouth. I'd rather have people tell me that in person or text than to see like, oh, yours is like top 5. You have a 4.6 out of 5-star rating or something like that. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I mean, it's cool, yeah, but I mean, honestly, I'd rather have people tell me physically like, hey, I like it or I appreciate about this, rather than like numbers telling me that kind of stuff. Man, knowing business numbers is important, but someone taking the time out of their day to tell you that,
right?
Kind of like birthdays. I hate Facebook post birthdays, and I hate text message birthdays. Absolutely hate it. Call me. I call people that I haven't seen in a long time, or I don't see on a daily basis. I will call them like, hey, yo, bro, happy birthday, and blah blah blah. And some people are like, why don't you just text them? It's not the same.
Right.
I want them to hear the excitement of my voice that it is their birthday.
Right.
And I'm taking 2 to 3 minutes out of my day, which is nothing,
right,
to call them. You know, so I'd rather have that.
So what you're saying is like having in-person validation about your podcast means more than the analytics.
Oh, 100%.
I think that makes sense. Now, what is word of mouth about? Like, what's a summary? How can you sum it up in one sentence?
Basically a podcast where we just chit chat about the most random things.
Okay.
I mean, it could be, I don't like this podcast, for example, it's media and travel. Right. That's our main topics. Right. And the occasional off the wall kind of stuff. Right. Word of mouth is more of like this kind of conversation. You know, like apart from the podcast, like having people like the birthday topic I just said. Right. That kind of conversation.
Talking about that.
So it's like
a have you know Jenna Marbles?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jenna Marbles had a podcast with her boyfriend
Mhm.
called the Jenna Julian Podcast.
Yeah.
And it kind of sounds that's what word of mouth is.
Yeah, just kind of like just vibing. I mean,
Or,
we're two Hispanic guys, so overall we will have like some Hispanic based topics.
Right.
Like some Hispanic stories or some tall tales or whatever, like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, we'll just have like conversations, whether it be like, hey, this past weekend, this and this happened. Or, hey, I got a funny story to tell you. And I'll just tell like a funny story, whatever.
Right.
So just having a casual conversation.
That also reminds me of Ear Biscuits, the podcast that Rhett and Link do.
Yeah.
I think that the way that you treat yourself is very important, right? Because when you have a chit chat podcast like that, you kind of have to treat yourself like an influencer.
Yeah.
Right?
You really do. Yeah, honestly.
Which is something that both of us could get better about, right? Because when you have a podcast and you want to reach people, and I'm still reading a book called Everybody Has a Podcast But You by the McElroy family. There's this like, are you doing a podcast because you want to reach people, or are you doing a podcast because you think it's fun?
Ooh, okay. On top of that, the first version of word of mouth was never to create an audience.
Okay.
It was never to like become big.
All right.
It was just to leave a mark, to say that I did something with my friends.
Right. Kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk, how he did Wine Library for like, how long did he do it for?
Like 4 or 5 years.
And nobody watched it.
Yeah.
Even if nobody ever listens to Word of Mouth.
Correct.
Or Slowpoke's Anime Hour.
Yeah.
We did something, and that's more than a lot of people can say.
100%. Because I'd rather leave something memorable.
Right.
YouTubers have YouTube videos to look back on memories.
Right.
I have podcasts to look back on the conversations I had with a certain person.
Right.
And to be like, man, it's been, and I thank Snapchat for this. I get on Snapchat and it says, hey, 2 years ago, you just did a podcast with this friend. And I'll send them that picture like, yo, it's been 2 years. Can you realize that? Like, dude. And they'll message me back saying, yo, I kind of miss doing that.
Right.
I miss talking, just talking.
Right.
And I guess it's a sense of me having to reach out and like it's kind of forcefully talking. Like having to forcefully talk with another person. But it's also having them to come out of their comfort zone. It doesn't matter what topic your podcast is about. Like if you bring up a friend that works somewhere else that only listens and you're like, hey, I want you to try out talking. Let's talk on a podcast.
Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of nervous. Like I don't like the sound of my voice. Okay. Nobody does. Just get over it. Like just deal with it. It's okay.
Right.
Like that is like what would improve my speaking skills is talking on a podcast.
Right.
Getting used to my voice. This is what I actually sound like.
Right.
And other people appreciate that too. They're like, yo, after podcasting, like I found appreciation to my voice, which is weird because we talk every day.
Yeah, but you don't think about
You don't
talking.
think about it. You don't think about it.
It's always super weird. Like, so I do this podcast, right? And we can hear each other in our headphones right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And whenever I'm like, because I have to listen to these to edit them, right? But when I hear myself on somebody else's podcast,
right,
it trips me out.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, because you're not controlling it.
Right.
Because so you're like, hey, here's my voice. Do what you want with it. Which is weird.
What's the goal you have with word of mouth too?
Honestly, like, it's going to sound cliche, but I kind of want to become like a podcast that people know about.
Right.
So like not Joe Rogan, because that dude's like
way up there. Yeah.
Way up there. But like the podcast that I listen to. So I listen to like Zane and Heath, the two YouTubers, and they have their own podcast. And that's kind of like their kind of vibe. They'll just talk the talk. Or there's these two Filipino guys from Canada. They're Jumpers Jump. They have a lot of conspiracy theories or myths kind of stories. And they'll tell like their Filipino side of the story.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't really regularly post on Instagram.
Correct.
Or Twitter.
Correct.
Or Facebook.
Yeah. So only thing on Twitter I do is like or retweet racing kind of stuff.
Right.
Just racing in general.
So all of these people that you listen to, right? All the people that I listen to.
Yeah.
You only listen to them because you knew about them beforehand.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're really going to need to work on your social media presence because you have to have people care about you for some reason.
100%. I think the only platform that people know me for me is like my Snapchat,
Right.
which is, if you had to break it down, like only 100 people.
Right.
Which 100 people is a lot.
Right.
But in media world, that's like
Nothing.
That's like 0 people.
Right.
So me posting, like, for example, I have this stuff like my keychains, like my laser engraving kind of stuff. I will post on my stories, but at the same time I'll post my podcast on my stories.
Okay.
And
but I haven't seen you really posting on your stories.
No, I haven't. I really haven't at all. And like, why is that? I don't know. I kind of don't want to. I want to become an influencer in a way, but then again, I don't want to become the influencer type, you know?
I think just being yourself is important.
Yeah.
So posting about, and this is something that we have to, I don't know, were you better about posting on social media when you were younger? Because I was.
I don't know. I hate myself. Not that I hate myself, but I dislike that I work better in the back end, but I want to be shown in the front end.
Right.
Like, I work way better like behind this wall rather than being in front of this wall. Because I can create so many things for so many people. Right. Awesome. What about you? I don't know, man. I don't know about me. You know?
I think that we need to get better about posting like all the time. And that's something that we could have a whole other podcast about, is like, how could we do better?
Yeah.
About being on social media. Because there is a girl I follow. I met her at a BTS concert, and she always has so many responses to her stories. Well, first of all, she's really pretty. Okay. Second of all, she's super honest. Okay. And so, like, when I post something on my story, I don't really get that many replies.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same way with you.
Oh, yeah. Just now, I only got 2 replies off of something I posted about my laser engraving. Right. But that's about it. Only 2. I'm just like, oh, that's better than none, you know?
Right. But this girl doesn't have, like, this girl has as many followers as I do. Right. Yeah. So it's like, what makes her different? Well, I constantly see her posting. The more you post, the more people are invested in you.
You know, that's true, because I will comment on people that post more. Right. Like on their stories.
So you and Jose got to become influencers.
Yeah. I do actually comment more on people's stories that post more. Yeah. Because there's guys that are my friends, and I'll comment. You know, they'll one of them's like lifting weights. I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure you can lift more than that. Like, I have confidence that he can do that. And he'll reply back, and I'm like, okay. But then I'm asking myself, what about me? You know, right? That's because I'm not posting. That's why.
Right. Exactly.
I need to be known. To be known. Right. Damn, it's gonna be hard. Yeah, that's the hardest thing.
Can I?
Yeah. What about Anime Hour?
So it's called Slowpoke's Anime Hour. And
oh, by the way, both our podcasts, Spotify and Apple.
Yes. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and mine is on Anchor.
Okay. So, that's your host.
Yes. Okay. But you can listen to, like, if you have the Anchor app, you can listen on Anchor. Okay. So Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Right. It is really hard if you don't have a distributor like that that distributes everything for you. It is difficult to get on those things.
It really is.
I mean, I could say I'm a Spotify exclusive. That's not true, because I'm also on Anchor. But
yeah, I think you're only Spotify exclusive if Spotify pays you.
Right. Like Joe Rogan.
Like Joe Rogan, or Call Her Daddy.
Oh right, Call Her Daddy is Spotify exclusive.
Only Spotify.
Right. So, my podcast, Slowpoke's Anime Hour, is not going to be consistent. How often is Word of Mouth going to come out?
We are trying. So far, we've done every Wednesday. There's only 2 episodes out. We've done last Wednesday, this past Wednesday, and we might record today to upload next Wednesday. Okay. So it might be a Wednesday episode kind of thing. But then again, we are both adults. We both got our own lives, so it might not be consistent. But for sure, 2 a month, for sure.
So I've done podcasts with podcasters such as Shannon and Angelica from Ask Me About K-Pop, and DJ Peter Lowe of the K-Pop Cast. And the thing that they say is the best for podcasting is to be consistent. Yeah. And I'm doing the opposite of that. Yeah.
But well, yours takes longer.
Mine takes longer, and also produce. Like, for me, it's not that I really want, like, right now, I'm not super focused on like having a consistent audience. Correct. Right now, I'm just trying to learn what my podcast is. Right. So Slowpoke's Anime Hour is an anime podcast where I talk about anime, Avi.
For an hour or less.
Or less, yeah. Or more. So the first episode is an introduction where I kind of talk about like what anime I'm going to talk about and what kind of anime I like. And the second episode, like the first real episode, is about an anime called Komi Can't Communicate,
Right.
which is a Netflix original. And so basically I love watching anime.
Mm-hmm.
But my issue is that there are a lot of anime that are not safe.
Not PG.
Yeah, and you'll think that they are like, so basically I want to give a rundown of this anime. Could you watch it with your family or your little sister or whatever, right? And I am going to have guests, so like maybe I'll have you on if you watch a certain anime, or my friend Morgan. Like I said, I only have 2 episodes out.
Yeah.
But like, as you guys might have heard in the cold open, I'm watching an anime called Kotaro Lives Alone. And I'm going to talk about that anime.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen, personally, any of the anime YouTubers that I watch talk about it.
Right.
And it's really unique and really sad. And it's one of those shows that it's like, holy crap, like people need to see this. This is really fascinating.
Sure. I'd be willing to recap on that This Corner of the World anime movie.
Yeah, that would be good. So, and I like the sound of my own voice.
Yeah. Hey, you just gotta be be cocky like that in podcasting. You just have to, honestly.
I'm a Sagittarius, which means I'm a narcissist.
I'm a water sign, so shout out to the
No,
avatars.
you're an air sign.
Air sign. Shout. I'm the last airbender.
You're an Aquarius, which means you are the water bearer, but you are an air sign. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
I said yeah because I'm like yeah. I still need to learn that.
It makes no sense that Aquarius fucking air sign. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about astrology today. I may have my dad on.
Right.
I may have my sister on. I may have Jose on.
Yeah.
Jose and Crystal.
He's a big anime.
Right. So there's no like consistent. The only consistency is me. And the fact that I am very passionate about anime.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, right now I'm not so focused on like the consistency of like posting every week or posting every other week. I'm focused on making a couple episodes.
Right.
Because I only have a couple listeners, which are mostly my friends. But
which is cool because they'll see the startup, they'll see the beginning phases of it.
Right.
Because those are like, yeah, I knew her when she was like at 2 listeners.
Right. And the big thing is that like you have to just start.
Oh, 100%. I'm so glad you brought that up. But continue. I'll say this at the end. I just need to pull up the message.
So the thing about podcasting is that your first episode is probably going to suck.
100%. 100%.
I've heard so many podcasters talk about this.
100%.
Unless you are like Ask Me About K-Pop, where it's an
Correct.
educational podcast, right?
Yeah.
And you have kind of like a loose script to go off of. If you are just like the McElroys, their show My Brother and Me, they'll admit the first episode sucks.
Oh, 100%, man.
And they'll say like don't listen to the first 100 episodes because they're terrible.
Yeah.
And so I have to get over like this fear of not being good.
Correct.
Because if I don't start, then I won't get better.
Correct.
That's like a huge fucking thing that people don't get.
Yeah, I know my old co-host from the first version of Word of Mouth, I wanted to implement skits as an intro. And at the time, those are good ideas.
Right.
At the time.
Right.
But now they're so cringy and they're so horrible. And they're only on Spotify. How can I delete them? I have no idea.
Really?
I don't know how to delete because I made a new account.
Oh.
But same email and everything else.
Oh my
but
God.
I like suspended my old account. So I have no access of my old episodes. So now those episodes are just stuck there forever. The cringy skits that we had in the beginning.
Oh my God.
But those are learning experiences.
Right, because even
Those are
like
learning experiences.
Meg and Ro in the morning, like those first few episodes suck.
Oh, 100%, dude. We were horrible. The setup was horrible.
That was like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You can improve so much by just doing it.
I love how on the camera the sets are different, but we literally moved like 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Like our old set was like from my camera, like the set was right behind y'all.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And then Megan's camera, we moved that a little bit more to the left, and that was like our second set. And now we're on our third set.
Right.
And so, yeah, improvement.
I mean, there are even some episodes that we've done recently where I'm like, that shit fucking sucked.
Oh, heck. There are 3 or 4 episodes that are just in the archive because either mainly freaking video issues.
Right.
Like the 5 Below. Y'all never get to see that.
Right. Or
I'm
like,
kinda sad about that.
I'll say something and then later I'm like, why the fuck did I say that?
Yeah.
And it's like,
me too. I'm like,
that's the learning experience that you have to go through. And also, I think people are afraid to just start because of like, not to get like too political or anything, but like political correctness. And no, we're not political correctness. Cancel culture.
Cancel culture is a horrible culture.
Right. And so I think
cancel off of that.
I think that people get nervous about starting their own podcast because they're worried about saying something wrong and getting canceled. But the thing is, you're going to learn and grow. And you're going to say stupid shit. And you know that you're going to say stupid shit. And that's okay. Yeah. You have to be okay with people not liking you. And you have to be okay with people not paying attention to what you do. Yeah. You just got to keep doing it. Because
the people that don't like you will still watch you.
Right.
100%. There are people that I hate, and I'll still watch them.
Right.
Why? Because what is joy without any, like, with a little bit of hatred? Right. You know, because if your life is all sunshine and rainbows, it's kind of boring. Right. You got to have some dark side.
You got to have some drama.
You got to have some drama. But yeah, like still on creating a podcast topic, friend of mine or acquaintance of mine wanted to start a podcast. Okay. And has been wanting to start one since last year. Okay. But, you know, life happens and stuff happens. Right. And he said that he's had a lot on his mind that he wants to do the podcast. And I said, word by word, all you need to do is start, nothing more, nothing less. Hit record and talk. If it's that hard, then honestly, you're not going to have a podcast. That was sent Tuesday of this week. Really? Yeah. So yeah, if you don't talk, if you don't start, you're not going to have a podcast. Right. And you don't need this. You don't need this microphone. You don't need that camera.
You can use your phone.
You can use your phone. iPhone has a voice memo that you just talk
Anchor?
to. Anchor? Yeah.
The
Anchor
thing that
has an in-house recording.
Right. Exactly.
And so you don't need this equipment that we have. We're just fortunate to have this equipment. Right. But all you need is your phone and some creative description skills, and that's it. That's all you need. Right, exactly. There are some people who are fortunate enough to have really good microphones, 100%. Like us. Yeah. There are some people who literally can record in actual studios. And then there are some people who make podcasts with like shitty microphones that they got at Walmart, and now they're like the best podcasters in the world, aka the McElroy Bros. So don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to say stupid shit, because you're going to say stupid shit. Yeah, a good example, a real popular podcast. I listen to her all the time. They call her Daddy. She takes her laptop, she takes her microphone, and she just walks to her guest's house or goes to her guest's house. She has no recording studio. Right. She makes like over $500,000 in revenue because she said on the podcast. Right. But she has no set studio. She just laptop, microphone, goes to her parents' house, goes to her basement, goes to her closet. This was supposed to be us talking about our podcast. We're talking about podcasts in general. We really got like philosophical about like why we do it and why you should do it and blah, blah, blah. You should start a podcast. You should start a podcast. We started podcasts and you can too. And mine is called Slowpoke's Anime Hour. Word of mouth too. Can you give the spelling of that one once again? Yeah, word of mouth. WRDOFMTH and the number 2. All of our like links will be in the description, so that way you can check us out and follow us on Spotify or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're listening to this on Anchor, which I don't know if you're on Anchor, but if you are, cool. So yeah, I think that's it. We'll listen to our podcasts. Don't just listen to Meg and Ro in the morning, but keep listening to Meg and Ro in the morning. And keep watching. You can find us at Meg and Ro in the morning anywhere. You can find us on Twitter at MR in the morning. That's Mr. in the morning. That's also our hashtag. Make sure that you give us a like, a thumbs up, follow us, comment, share, do all the things. Click those buttons. Remember, 1 + 1 = 1. Yes, sir. Oh. He saw the sign.
Finally, he acknowledges it.